year? Really?
Over a year.
Oh, man.
You
Time
ready?
is going by.
Okay. I will call the regular meeting for Tuesday, February the 1st, 2022 to order. The time is 6:30. Everybody please rise for a moment of silence, followed by pledge of allegiance. Amen. I
I
pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is consent agenda. We have none. Citizens' comments. You have anything? Citizens' comments? Okay. Item 6, presentation, official copy of the Tarrant County 2020 coronavirus pandemic historical book to the Edmond Public Library, Tarrant County Clerk Mary Louise Nicholson, item 22068. You can come on up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Mary Louise Nicholson. I'm your county clerk in Tarrant County. Been your county clerk for 12 years. And we appreciate your time. And I think we want to talk a little bit about the pandemic and what Tarrant County did. I think we can all agree that 2020 was a year that we've never seen in our lifetime. The coronavirus pandemic changed everything, how we lived, how we worked, how we interacted, how we conducted daily business in the private and public sector. The background and purpose of this book was to memorialize the events of 2020 through an illustrative narrative as they occurred in Tarrant County government for future generations. Do we have a slideshow?
Oh, you know what? Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
I will get that.
Thank
right
you. It was this, hello.
now.
We got a lot going on, people. It was a 6-month effort that began in March of 2020. When I asked one of my team members, who's a photographer on the side, to start taking pictures, I said, please start documenting the PPE stations, the social distancing posters, what downtown Fort Worth looked like around the old courthouse when things shut down, and the public's response to the pandemic. Officially in 2020, we kicked off when I received approval from the Commissioner Court and the county auditor. So we procured a professional writer. We went through a local press, DFW Signature Press, Taylor Books, and we created this 176-page book capturing the highlights of the pandemic. Governor Greg Abbott is in the introductory message. Judge Glenn Whitley contributed to the prologue. The book has contributions from our elected officials in Tarrant County, the department heads, and the staff. As keeper of the records in Tarrant County, as county clerks are often known for, I saw it was very important to archive and even create a book like this for future generations. We saw value on the committee of adding the 1918 pandemic. And in researching the Fort Worth area in the pandemic, we found out that it seemed like history was repeating itself. In 1918, they were encouraged to wear chin sails, which were handkerchiefs. And believe it or not, there was a big upheaval of people that refused to wear chin sails when the government had made the request and asked them to. The book also contains a memoriam page to share how many lives in our 41 cities were lost before we had access to your choice of a vaccination or not. So when we went to print in April 10th in 2020, in April 8th in 2021, 3,000 neighbors, business people, friends, and coworkers died in Tarrant County that didn't have a choice with this pandemic, and we wanted to honor them. To honor all the lives of everybody that lost and to capture this history, we put this together and we want to put it in the hands that people will treasure it, make it available, and remember it. So this limited number of books we did, we are donating to cities, to Tarrant County universities, and to the high school libraries. Tarrant County Commissioner Court also embraced the project, and they ran a separate run of these books with their own money, and they are available for public for $20. And that donation will go to the food bank. So if anybody wants a copy, if you just reach out, we can make those available. One of the most rewarding things we I think that came from this book is that the Library of Congress, we reached out to the Library of Congress and they asked for 2 copies of this book. Usually they don't take copies anymore in the Library of Congress. It's all digital, but they saw value in that. So this book in Tarrant County is going to be in the Library of Congress in their historical section. So with that, I want to say thank you to the city of Everman for being part of history and making this available for those future generations when they have to learn about this. They know they can come find this book in your library. And I'd like to offer it to your library director, Mr. Manus. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And here is a copy of the book, sir. And it's a reference book, so. Mayor, can we grab a picture? And I think we, yes. Yep. Put her right next to me.
Yep. She's short. She fits right in front of you. There you go. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody enjoy your week.
Thank
You as well.
Thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. Oh, you're fine.
You ready, Craig?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next item is item 7, discussion items. Item 8, parking complaints and potential resolutions along Thomas Place, Landon Watley, item 22073.
I'm throwing him under the bus. He brought this to my attention, but rather than me pass it through to you, I just figured he could explain it a little better.
As with everything, we like to get y'all's blessing, consensus, ideas. Our major industrial area of the city, around Thomas Place, which is provides many tax dollars to the city. There's an issue, and I know that we've adopted a thoroughfare plan, and years down the road, a lot of these issues will start to be mitigated, but that doesn't help us now. We're booming over there, and the businesses, the daily traffic is going through the roof. Not only with standard vehicles, but also the 18-wheelers that are loading up all of the materials, whether it be the lumber from the hardwoods or the pallet company or the metal buildings that are down there on the cul-de-sac, which lends to a big issue for the other businesses that don't have 18-wheelers, and that's not a part of their business, and it obstructs any of their customers from reaching their actual storefront, and lends to an issue for the fire department because I can't get trucks down there if there's an emergency. And no more than 6 months ago, we did have a fire at one of the furniture places down there. I've met with a number of the business owners and leasees down there to see if I could come up with some sort of solution that would be a compromise for everybody while still within this ordinances, within the laws, because I don't think it's fair for anybody to have an 18-wheeler blocking the entire front of their drive, where any kind of customer has to wait, the next hour for them to load up whatever load it is. But I also understand it's not fair. They're limited on space, and you face the issue of where can we load up our 18-wheelers. Last business owner I met with today, and basically consensus is you need to have some kind of signage, much as if you would have over here at the park where you'd have no parking on the other side of the street. Once we're doing it the one way, the other side obviously would be no parking. The other side would be the headed parking. We need to do something to that effect throughout Thomas Place. And also, each business owner is going to have to take accountability for their loading and offloading. There's no such thing as a loading zone in the middle of a roadway, but that's what they're using the cul-de-sac for. So even two of the businesses that do have offloading and unloading, they understand that they're going to have to find a way to move to back those 18-wheelers a lot. What I want to come to you and see if y'all have any thoughts, any ideas, and see where we can go to push maybe an ordinance that says no 18-wheeler parking. along the roadway. I don't think we could do a vehicular, but maybe obviously it's illegal to double park, but at least put it in there where it's the stated, because within that cul-de-sac, they do kind of double up. So then there, it restricts any kind of flow and any kind of ingress and egress as well. So maybe come up with something that we can put on the books and give us a little more teeth also. That way, when they do have the 18-wheelers stacked 3 deep in the cul-de-sac, obstructing everything, we have something to go after them above and beyond your standard routine. But also everybody got have an opportunity to come to the table and talk to me and say, well, what can we do to find a solution that everybody has a little bit of sacrifice? So this is the best solution that I found.
When you say Thompson Place, are you referring to where that church is on the corner and the vacant lot is on the opposite side? Is that
Thomas
Thom-
Place, yes.
Okay. Has any of the companies come together with the same, what, have they compromised with anything similar?
And I'm not gonna, obviously, I'm not gonna name names. There's 1 or 2 that are traditionally the more the issue, because their 18-wheeler traffic is higher than anybody else's. And they just want to do business. I understand that, but you still gotta work with everybody else. But as a collective whole, between the other ones that I spoke with, even the ones that do have 18-wheeler traffic, I feel as if that's the best solution for the problem. Where they're gonna have to, along the way, each lot has the space to accommodate where the 18-wheeler would back in and they do the loading and unloading within their own property.
I think I just put up a map on the screen here. Just kind of funny that there happens to be an 18-wheeler parked in the middle of the cul-de-sac on the map.
Can
You
you
can
not just allow one 18-wheeler to go to that business at a time?
The problem is, we don't have a hall monitor. I don't have somebody, so, you know, who's gonna do that, who's gonna do traffic? You know, we don't have the resources to do that. Those businesses don't have the resources to do that, so. And then when you've got an independent contractor who's a truck driver, there's no communication between any of them. So we have to make one blanket standard for all of them. Otherwise, a system like that, I mean, that would be a great system where they could have some kind of, you're on deck, you're coming in, but there's no way to coordinate that.
There's a lot of space down there towards Shelby Road. They
So-
can just park and wait.
Yeah.
But
Which-
then the issue that you run into is they creep up a little bit on somebody else's property. They creep back on somebody else's property. There's not a good staging place anywhere along that roadway.
So whose property between Shelby Road and, is it Rick Thor? Is that his?
Yes, currently that property is listed under potential development. I don't know. There's been a couple of different negotiations going on about what they're wanting to build there, but currently I couldn't tell you who the owner is or give you a firm answer on what's being built there, if anything.
I just know that there's great prospects of much of the land that's down there being not vacant.
So you're
much
going
longer.
to
So I
put,
don't think that if we were to push the problem and say, well, let's stay back here in a year, 2, 3, 5 years, it's still gonna become a problem right there. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to address it again.
What about designating certain times, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, or something like that?
well, the problem with that, that's a good idea, but if somebody gets there at 9:45 and he's in his 2-hour window and it takes him 2 hours to load, he's into somebody else's 2 hours, if I'm reading that right.
Mayor, why don't we do this? Mayor, if it's okay with you, if council will give me a general consensus to move forward with doing a study on this, why don't we get our
I can't hear
engineer?
you.
Why don't we get our engineer, if council's okay with it, why don't we get our engineer to draft a plan that would satisfy both the needs of the businesses as well as the traffic management?
Yes.
And get an exhibit built to bring back to council so you can see what that proposal will look like and what that exhibit will look like specifically. Maybe we'll talk with him and see if there is some kind of hour restrictions, or maybe there's a good area down there that we can allow one 18-wheeler to access. We'll see if we can't come up with some kind of compromise, but I think the purpose of this was really to bring it to light that complaints were brought to him about businesses being impacted over there as a part of the
Yeah.
fire inspection. And that we have 18-wheelers that do block these businesses. People aren't able to access their parking lots. It is impacting some of the businesses. So
But so you're wanting to say, put a signs that says no parking,
No,
kind of.
Well, for sure no 18-wheeler. If
Right.
they're gonna load and unload on with an 18-wheeler,
Mhm.
they need to find the space within their property to accommodate that and back their rig into their.
Which the particular at-fault business has the space on their land to be able to do it on their property without impacting the road.
So the businesses that are down there that have 18-wheelers that come to load or offload, they already have a spot for their 18-wheeler. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
as far as we can see, they all have adequate space. Now,
Okay.
it's gonna be a more of a greater task for the 18-wheeler driver to back into there, and it's not as simple as him just pulling a cul-de-sac and then a U-turn.
Right.
That's not our problem.
Right.
My focus is the safety and the accessibility for not only
Yes.
fire department, police department, but also patrons.
Yes.
So even if we do have one staging point where they're allowed to, there's some kind of a theory or law, the principle that says that that's exactly where the fire or the emergency is going to
Yes.
be, right where that rig is parked, right in that
Yeah.
moment. So it never fails.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, chief.
Everybody in agreement? to-
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, have a plan drawn up and brought to us.
We'll do that. We'll get our engineer to draft up an exhibit to bring back to you with a full proposal. on it.
Thank you.
They shouldn't be loading and unloading in public roadway.
No,
No,
So
especially blocking.
that's
Other
a
businesses.
no-brainer there. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-uh.
All right, next item B, Hannah Ranch Phase 4 Sewer Line Infrastructure, Craig Spencer, item 22071.
I have got some bad news to share with you regarding the Hannah Ranch development.
It's not a good way to start out.
Is this a costly one, bad news?
Yes.
I thought so.
Okay,
Hmm.
so
Usually goes together.
when the negotiations were occurring with the Hannah Ranch Development Phase 4 over here, which is just east of Royce C. Brooks, plans were drafted and submitted through the engineer's office, and city staff at the time reviewed those plans. The Director of Public Works at the time advised that the current sewer line that was there feeding that particular residential subdivision was a good sewer line, and that there were no issues with that. Now that they've begun construction, they have cammed that line, and that line is actually collapsed. It's a 1,500-foot sewer line, 10-inch sewer line that feeds that area. Negotiations had already taken place. Things have already been approved. They've been given a stamp of approval to move forward with development, which makes the replacement of that line our responsibility as a city. I went to the city engineer and asked him roughly what would the cost be to replace that sewer line to fix this so the development can continue. And we would be looking at about $175,000 to do that, and 6 months' time before we could get boots on the ground. Here's the good news. Don't even write that number down. Here's the good news. I went back to the developers and was able to negotiate with them, pretty much utilizing the time constraint to our benefit here, and explaining that it's going to take some time for us to address this because we have to go through fund allocation, engineering, bidding, awarding, all the phases with any kind of project. And I explained that to them, and what I offered and what they accepted was that we would be able to contribute $50,000 to that project if they would go ahead and take care of the labor and the engineering costs and everything else associated with it. They have agreed to that. I will be bringing that agreement back to you, hopefully at the next council meeting, for you to officially execute. But we will be able to replace that sewer line. That's our responsibility for only $50,000. The developer will take care of all the labor and the engineering associated with it. It's done.
Why did it collapse?
It's an old original line to Everman.
Oh,
It's
right.
Clay, wasn't it?
Yes, it's a clay.
I
line.
was hoping somebody on their side had crushed it or something, but that wasn't
No
it.
such.
No, ma'am.
Time did it.
Unfortunately not. That is an
Okay.
old sewer line that has not been used in,
Are we going to talk finance?
Ever.
I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk-
and it
Okay.
doesn't interfere with any of the residents of Everman?
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again.
And it doesn't interfere with any of the residents of Everman?
No, ma'am. This will not impact, that sewer line does not currently service any of the English Isles neighborhood. They're serviced by a separate sewer line, but that sewer line is required for this new development that's going in. The $50,000, we have that within the bond project funds that we'll be able to reallocate to this project. So this will not have any general fund operating impact at all. We're gonna recommend that we use bond proceeds for that cost.
How much did you say it was gonna cost us before the deal?
175.
That's what I thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that wasn't bad news.
So I did want to share that with you. Well, I wish we didn't have to spend any. I wish the line was
Well-
in good shape and we could move
Yeah.
forward, but
Clay pipes.
I did need to make council aware of that. The attorneys are drafting the agreement now. We'll get that agreement over to the developers. Their attorneys are going to review it, get it back to us, make sure the legal lease is all good, and then we'll bring it to you for approval,
That's
hopefully
excellent.
at the next council meeting.
Any other discussion on that?
No?
Okay, next item C, review and discuss the city of Everman fiscal year 22 comprehensive financial management policy. Susan Helgeson, 22070.
Okay, we submitted the annual financial management policy. There are no changes submitted, so unless you have any changes that you would like added.
Hey, Mindy, turn the volume up a little bit, please.
On page 3, it mentions,
Has to be turned up back. Are you having trouble hearing?
We can't hear.
Yeah, I'd have to adjust it up there. We can't adjust volume back here.
Oh, boy,
really?
which knobs?
I thought Edna did last time.
on page 3, it mentions financial consultants and
Get as skinny as I can.
city attorney, delinquent tax collector attorneys and bond counsel. Is this something that we're gonna have to hire outside to do?
We already do. They already collect any delinquent property taxes for us.
Okay.
This is something we already outsourced.
So we have to reapprove this thing
This is,
periodically. You
yes.
said there was no
This-
changes.
yes, this
It's
is, this,
currently what we have in place.
we just have to review it annually just to make sure we're on the up and up. And sometimes we have changes that I need to submit based on recommendations through GFOAT or something like that. But I have no recommendations this year, so.
Okay,
On page 5, it's talking about overage and disabled person exemptions.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that in reference to?
That's just in regard to your property taxes.
For the elder, for seniors and disabled?
That's just talking about the exemptions that are offered through the city. And what we offer and what we don't offer.
Okay.
any other discussion?
That's pretty straightforward.
Okay, item D, the allocation of court technology funds for the purchase of court-related equipment. Edna Martinez, item 22069. Come on up, Edna.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are y'all doing?
Fine, thanks.
Just a quick, I guess, what do you call it? Quick approval. Now, I'm not requesting nothing major. I've been talking to Chief and we've been talking about, I have all the ability and capability of going paperless for my court department. It's a lot of paperwork for myself, so tons of paperwork. We are currently receiving an update with my software, LT Systems, and we are going to have the ability to add the Topaz signature pads for signatures. That way they can sign everything that they need to sign, and I'll be able to upload it to their file and not having to worry about printing out any paperwork or filing any paperwork. I don't recall the amount on those signature pads.
$700. It's right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, $700 for 2 of those. And I'm also requesting a tablet for my, not personal use, but for my department. I'm currently using my phone to take pictures of either license plates, registration of vehicles, or tinted windows whenever they come in for a compliance dismissal. I gotta take a picture so that I can have proof that it's been completed, that it's been done, so they can get that dismissal. So I'm requesting
Using your phone.
yes, I'm using my
Personal.
phone, my
Personal.
personal phone. Yes,
You
so-
need one then.
Yes, so
Definitely.
I talked to him about either a city phone or a tablet. So
Yeah.
I think a tablet would be more helpful.
I think
You're
so.
using it, yeah.
And I believe that's it, right? I'm not requesting anything else
Nope.
that I know of.
Craig, that's not an action item.
No, it's not an action item, but we will bring it back to you. Council prefers to discuss these before, so if I'm bringing it to you
Thank you.
tonight, we'll bring it back to you for approval in a couple of weeks.
Right.
I think it's a good idea.
Yes, Consider
Important,
it then.
important to highlight that the total request is $3,200.
yes.
She currently has $18,805 in the court technology fund.
Oh,
In the restricted court technology funds
Yes.
that we have to vote
Yes.
on.
Well, this sounds like a really good way to spend some of that money.
Absolutely.
Excellent. You won't have to use your phone anymore.
I know. It's like, well, I either need a phone or I need a tablet because I'm taking pictures on my phone. So,
Yeah.
and just a quick update, since I did issue warrants, with
Yes.
a little bit of money coming in, so.
Yeah,
All right.
good deal.
So,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item A, consideration of possible action. Item A, approve ordinance 778, an ordinance of the city council of Everman, Texas, amending Article 8, Section 8.03 of the Everman Code of Ordinances by adopting the composition of the Board of Adjustment, providing for severability and providing an effective date, item 22072. I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve item 22072.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Craig?
This, after our last discussion at the last council meeting regarding the Board of Adjustments,
Mhm.
I had recommended to council that we abolish that board. The attorney provided a different recommendation that we adopt this ordinance that actually states that the Board of Adjustments will be composed of city council. This means that we will not have to go through our Code of Ordinances book and change everywhere it says BOA to city council. So it just makes the process a whole lot simpler. We don't have to amend any other ordinances.
And
This
cheaper.
also gives city council the ability that if 2 to 3 years from now, maybe the BOA becomes a little bit overwhelming and council chooses to go back to a board, we won't have to go through that whole process. We can simply repeal this ordinance and appoint to the Board of Adjustments at that point.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Excellent, yeah.
Any discussion or questions?
And it's cheaper.
Would you poll the council?
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4.
Aye.
Place 5,
Aye.
place 6,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
motion carries.
Item B, approve City of Everman personnel policy update as presented by the city manager. Item 22067. I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve item 22607. 22067.
I second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any discussion?
There have been no changes since the last discussion on this.
Okay.
I just completed the final draft. The only exception to that is I did change the table of contents from the back of the book to the front of the
Thank
book, so
you.
now it's at the front. And I simplified the table of contents a little bit rather than listing out every single little sub item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's listed by chapter, so it's a little easier to navigate. Other than that, there's no other changes to policies other than what we've previously discussed.
I have a question
Yes,
on Article 9 regarding drugs. If one of your employees has a drug problem, do y'all try to get them help or anything like that? Counseling?
God. Sorry, now I'm the loud.
Mike is too hot.
If the employee will come to human resources or their supervisor prior to an incident or some sort of work performance, then yes, we have employee assistance programs that we would offer them and help them through. However, if that employee suffers some sort of incident at work and it's due to drug involvement, or they fail to notify a supervisor of some sort of drug problem and pop positive on a random drug test, then no, that employee will face termination. But if we have employees that have any substance abuse problems, we certainly do have programs available to those employees through our benefit programs to get them the help that they need.
My next question is on city property. If a employee takes a car or truck home, is that covered up under insurance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, as long as they're abiding by city policy, yes, TMO insurance will cover it.
Any other discussion? Would you poll the council?
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
Place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5,
Aye.
place 6.
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
motion carries.
Next item, executive session. We don't have anything. Item 10, city manager's report.
I do have a few things, Mayor. First and foremost, city council approved the reallocation of some funds over to, from the water side to the city hall and city improvement side of the bond. Part of that was to cover the fire suppression system that was anticipated going in at the Civic Center. I've got some more bad news associated with that.
This is bad news.
Yes, the contractor originally believed that a 13R system, a residential system, would suffice to code. It does not. It does not meet the standards of code, and therefore it's going to cost us. Originally, we had moved over enough to cover $60,000 for the fire suppression. It's going to cost us $98,000. We do have the funds available within the bond to still cover it. So we're not dipping in the general fund or reserves or anything, but we're going to have an overage there. When all this is said and done, we'll have to come back and do probably a budget amendment on that.
An overage?
Um,
What does that mean?
We're going to go over budget on the Civic Center project.
So where does the money come from to
We-
fix that
We
overage?
have enough within the contingency still. We have enough within bond proceeds, but it's
Okay,
gonna go over what we originally budgeted
Okay.
for the Civic Center.
okay.
We're
Because
not
that
gonna have-
$5,000 over that we have on our
No.
budget is not gonna
going
cover
to-
that. Okay,
no,
just,
Not going to affect
Okay.
that, but it is going to eat into the contingency that we had
Right.
left within those bonds.
Okay.
Bond proceeds.
better it come from there.
Part of the problem is that originally it was anticipated that we could get away with doing a 2-inch service line during that fire suppression. Now we have to do a 6-inch service line. The main that services that building is only a 6-inch, which means we can't tap the line. We actually have to put in a T and essentially install a brand new water line that feeds that building. The fire
that-
riser is going to be located on the outside of the building. They're having to add that on to accommodate for the fire riser because now the fire riser has to be bigger since it's a 6-inch line coming in, not a 2-inch. So the cost went up significantly.
So now we got to dig up a new parking lot.
No, they have not paved this part of where the water line is going to go specifically because we still have data and electrical and things to run on this side, just on the south side of the Civic Center.
But it still has to run to the building.
Right, but they won't bust up any of the concrete. It's gonna
Okay.
run up and they'll have to bust out the portion where the 6-inch comes in and up to the foundation. But that's it.
Okay.
They'll take care of all that for that amount.
What was the total again?
98, just over $98,000.
So here's my question,
Yes, ma'am.
and I don't even know how to say it, how to ask it. So a building that big for the purpose that it's gonna be, who did not think ahead
It-
that,
It didn't really come down to that. So there's some disagreements and some, I don't even really want to call it oversight. So let me explain what happened. The plans were submitted under the belief in the fire code underneath Civic Center. Underneath that category as a civic center, it does not require it to be sprinkled. However,
okay,
when plans were submitted to the Tarrant County Fire Marshal, the Tarrant County Fire Marshal reviewed it and asked the question of, do you plan to serve food or beverage? And not prep food or beverage. Is food or beverage going to be consumed inside that building? There is a clause in the code that it is no longer qualifies as a civic center if more than 100 people are going to be in that building and there are plans for them to consume food or beverage. Even though we're not going to put a kitchen in here that will cook food, it's going to be a catering kitchen with catering warmers, stove to keep food warm and to serve. That doesn't matter. It's a matter of if they're going to consume food. So if we have 101 people inside that facility and we serve free Dr. Peppers, that has to be sprinkled by the fire code.
okay, so back to my question. Who drew up these plans? I'm not looking for a name. I'm just looking for somebody to realize what they did and plan ahead for the next time this might happen.
Well, I think it's a little bit of a mixture between us and the contractor, because even the contractor today, we've been trying to find ways around it. He believes it's not. Here's where it comes into light. Ultimately, the fire marshal for the city has the determination of doing it. Now that this has been brought to light by the Tarrant County Fire Marshal to his attention, if he was to avoid this and grant some sort of exemption and something was to ever happen over there, then the city is going to be held liable if we don't.
Oh, no,
take that step.
no,
So-
no, we would never do that
No,
because
I know.
the fire marshal has found this, the other guy. And so we have to obey,
Right,
understood.
right.
I just want to know why it wasn't caught in the first place.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't caught. It was, so annex before was zoned as A3, which is A3, you can do all of these things. And you can have 120 people in there because if it's a A3, that was okay.
And it had a stove.
Within the new code, and when they did the original engineering plans, obviously, they were gonna follow along with what we previously had, which would be an A3 building. It never came across their thought process of, we're gonna have to adopt it to an A2 when we've all, for years and years and years, been zoned as an A3. So once we got the engineering plans and we do our third party as well, everybody sees an A3 and it's completely to code. And so it was one of those, it just creeps up on you because somebody else in the county hears it and they know exactly what the intent could be, and they've ran across this a multitude of times within other conference, dance halls, civic centers, where they knew that they're gonna have to abide by that, and they've been enforcing it there. Nobody else is. This, like I said, we're on a 2018 code. It's a newer code, and this is not a very, very commonly known thing. Because that was updated
That's
within that
it.
last code.
Okay.
You
Okay.
stated that there's not a kitchen.
There's a kitchen, but it's not going to be a prep kitchen. In other words, they won't be able to bring in raw materials and cook food there. The food has to be prepped offsite and brought in. We're going to have catering warmers in there. They're the tall ovens that keep the
Yes.
catering trays warm and that sort of thing. We'll have kitchen appliances, sinks, microwaves, those sorts of things. But we're not putting a stovetop and oven in there where somebody can rent the facility and actually cook their food there. It
Yeah.
has to be prepped offsite and brought in. And that's just to simplify the process, keep the mess to as simple as possible, as well as for fire safety.
I agree. Okay,
If there was a way around.
understood.
Where life safety wouldn't be sacrificed. we would have done.
I did want to let you know, if you haven't seen, we have been able to put up 15 new banners, pole
Yes.
banners throughout the city. They say
They look
welcome home
nice.
currently. We'll look to change those banners out somewhere around the springtime and also add additional banners as well. We weren't sure what 15 would look like. Wanted to start small. We may look to double the number of banners that are out. I think they look great. I
Yeah,
think they've
they
got a
do.
very nice touch. So those are now hanging up. We've already received our first few sports sponsorships since council has approved the sports sponsorship program. And we've
Yay.
raised just under $10,000
All right.
towards parks and improvements on those facilities. Civic Center is progressing very well, aside from the fire suppression system. Otherwise, it's progressing very well. I'm sure that you've seen it take shape. Framing is nearly complete. We can anticipate to see the roof going on within the next couple of weeks. And the electrical rough-in will start on Monday, weather permitting. So things are progressing very well through there. Several of us went over and met with the contractor yesterday, and we spent about 2 hours walking through that facility, talking through every little detail, nook and cranny. And I think council is going to be very pleased with the final product of the facility. Lastly,
They're busy, what can I say?
lastly, I just wanted to talk about the winter storm that's approaching. In case you didn't know, its named Landon.
Really? You
Fire
started this.
suppressions and storms, I don't know what to tell you.
So winter storm Landon is approaching. We have taken all the necessary precautions that we possibly can. All of our city facilities have been checked. I have sent out numerous, I'm sure all the directors are annoyed with me by now talking about the winter apocalypse, so to speak. that may be upon us.
22, right?
We're trying not to have a repeat of what occurred last year. So we're taking all the precautions. Public Works will be doing some shift swapping. We're actually going to have Public Works staff work an overnight shift tomorrow night through into Thursday to help monitor the roadways, monitor the water system, identify any potential issues that may arise as quickly as possible.
Excellent.
We did acquire this year a salt spreader. That's a trailer hitch mounted spreader. So our public works will be equipped with that, and they will tend to any intersections that may need to be tended to overnight as the ice accumulates. We are expecting anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of ice. So I do expect the roadways to be iced over come Thursday morning. If that is the case, I do plan to keep City Hall closed and have staff work from home just for safety reasons. So obviously I'll make that determination once the ice actually starts to fall. I won't be too presumptive of the meteorologist. We did also purchase chains this past year for our emergency vehicles, police, fire, as well as some public works vehicles. So our vehicles can safely move around the ice in that case. So I think we're as prepared can be for for the winter storm that's approaching. So that's
Cool.
that's all I've got, Mayor.
Okay. Mayor's report, I don't have anything. So with that being said, it is 7:10. We are adjourned.
Whoa.